And greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. We lost you. We lost our connection. That's the dangers of traveling remote. Those of you who may be listening for the first time, this isn't what I do for a living. I'm one of them guys out there behind the orange barrels. I do road construction for a living. I do this as a hobby. Nobody pays me to do this. I have no advertisers, no sponsors, no donators. I do this completely on my own. And I'm working out of town. I'm down in Louisville, doing a road job down here. I have a little mobile studio I take with me, and when I'm out of town, I'm at the mercy of the local Wi-Fi. And I lost you there. I hope this, I don't know if this will come up as two shows. It may. I've lost my connection here before, just briefly, but it never shut down my my switchboard like it just did. So anyhow, we're back on now. Can anybody hear me? So this may split up into two shows now because I completely lost my connection, but we're back. I was talking about a little bit about the Vera Bradley there in Fort Wayne, which is where I'm from. Shutting down a whole shift. They didn't say they were taking the jobs overseas, but they made mention of overseas labor. Now, in some ways, I support the president. I'm tired of American companies taking their manufacturing overseas and then bringing their goods back into this country without paying a price. I think that's wrong. But then again, you can't blame them when we have one of the highest, if not the highest, corporate tax rates on the planet. So what we need to do is abolish the IRS, abolish the tax code, go to a flat tax, fair tax, I don't care what kind of tax you want to call it, where you pay across the board 15, 16%, whatever the expert, I'm not an expert, I don't know the exact number, what it should be. Make it low. And then if companies still move their manufacturing overseas, they should be slapped with the huge tariffs when they bring those products back in the country. I disagree with Barack Obama, economic patriotism. Well, when you have the highest corporate tax rate in the country, nobody can blame you for leaving the country. If you have one of the lowest corporate tax rates on the planet, and then people still want to leave, well, then maybe you have a legitimate criticism. We need a fair tax. We need to abolish the IRS and put some of them in prison, I might add. Honestly. Anyhow, moving on. I don't get much news in there because I lost my connection, but we're back. And since we got together last, trying to get back to my Patriot Media Facebook page where I got a couple stories stashed. I look for stories all week. I stash them. either on the Facebook Patriot Media Network page, or I bookmark them here and bookmark them there, and then I have a hard time remembering which stories I have where. I'm trying to put most of them on the... Got a story here from the Independent Journal Review. Good site. I recommend it. Story here of IJ Review. As ISS terrorists bury women and children alive, Obama lies that ending the war in Iraq wasn't his idea. It's pathological. Saturday morning, President Obama followed up on a message that he had uttered a few months ago. Withdrawing from Iraq wasn't his idea. This is what the president responded after being asked, Mr. President, do you have any second thoughts about pulling all ground troops out of Iraq? And does it give you pause as the U.S. is it doing the same thing in Afghanistan? And according to the president, and I quote, what I just find interesting is the degree to which this issue keeps coming up, as if this was my decision. So let's be clear. Let's just be clear. The reason that we did not have a follow-on force in Iraq was because the Iraqis were a majority of Iraqis did not want U.S. troops there, and politically, they could not pass the kind of laws that would be required to protect our troops in Iraq. Now I got to go golf, so you dummies, you can stay here and keep asking questions. No, he didn't say that. But he did say the rest of that stuff. Typical liberal. I talked about this the other night. Snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. It's what liberals do. They did it in Vietnam. They've done it in Iraq, and they'll do it in Afghanistan too. You watch. Here's a clip of Big Dummy. Cut one, go. Oh, I don't know why you got to be mean, Patriot. It's not that I'm mean. It's just that I think he's a big dummy. Oh, you want me to call him President Dummy or Mr. Big Dummy? I could, because I could use, I could do either one. I'm not necessarily trying to be mean, but I'm not trying to be nice either. I'm going to get mean if this clip doesn't take off here in a minute. That's the nature of hotel Wi-Fi's. I'm doing the best I can, ladies and gentlemen. I will be back in the fort Friday night, back in the home studio. Okay, Big Dummy. Cut one. And go. Or not. It's loading. I'm not loading, but it's loading. Okay. Hang on. Wow. Okay. Well, I guess that's not going to... It actually is playing, but I'm not getting any sound. You know, my sound engineer's a big dummy. That would be me. For some reason, I'm not getting any sound. Anyhow, that's pretty much him, you know, saying what I just said. I just love how everybody brings this up when, you know, as if it was my decision. When we all know it was. I mean, he ran for re-election and, you know, must have said 1,000 times, we're bringing our troops home. Must have claimed he claimed victory. Claimed we were leaving Iraq with a stable and sovereign and democratically elected government, and you know the whole 9 yards.
Any regrets about that decision in 2011?
Well, keep in mind that wasn't a decision made by me. That was a decision made by the Iraqi government. We offered a modest residual force to help continue to train and advise Iraqi security forces. We had a core requirement which we require in any situation where we have U.S. troops overseas, and that is that they are provided immunity.
All right, I stopped that. You know, what we offered, yeah. You know, the guy spent months bragging about how he was ending the war in Iraq, but we offered a residual force. You know, we offered a residual force. Blah blah blah. You know, you don't offer a country like that. You know, well, we can leave 4 or 5 guys for you if you really need them. You'd think that the full weight and force of the United States government couldn't have got that status of troop agreement if we really wanted it. He didn't want it. That was his excuse to pull out. Because pulling out's what he wanted to do. He used the lack of the status of forces agreement as an excuse to pull out, claiming that he ended the war in Iraq.
At the end, since they are being invited by the sovereign government there, so that if, for example, they end up acting in self-defense, if they are attacked.
If they are, you know, he was talking about the status of forces agreement where if our guys get attacked and they have to defend themselves, we can't be having them marched up and we can't have them prosecuted under Iraqi law, you know, that doesn't apply to them. That's what a status of forces agreement, you know, does. Protects your guys from prosecution.
And find themselves in a tough situation, that they're not somehow hauled before a foreign court. That's a core requirement that we have for U.S. troop presence anywhere. The Iraqi government and Prime Minister Maliki declined to provide us that immunity. And so I think it is important, though, to recognize that despite that decision, that we have continued to provide them with very intensive advice and support, and have continued throughout this process over the last 5 years to not only offer them our assistance militarily, but we've also continued to urge the kinds of political compromises that we think are ultimately necessary in order for them to have a functioning multi-sectarian democracy inside the country.